Epsilasi, welcome to another edition of Mawio'mi. I'm your host, Jim Richardson.
And I'm your co-host, Terry Richardson. So, bro, it's always exciting nowadays to what we've been going through. It's been a while since we've been on, actually.
It's been a long time, you know.
We took a break.
And kudos to Rogers for their community programming. And certainly for all the listeners and viewers out there. You provided us with a great deal of commentary. You know, a community functions based on volunteerism, bro.
Definitely.
And, you know, we have our guest today, Denise Frenette, who is with the Rotary Club. The spirit of altruism is spread throughout her. She's got this aura about altruism.
And it's so important, right? Because volunteerism is something that, you know, people don't realize. That's a big part of our communities. We know in our community.
Absolutely.
So Denise, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Denise, Rotary Club. Tell us a little about the Rotary Club.
Well, the Rotary Club is an international service organization. We have about 35,000 clubs in almost 200 countries.
Wow.
And that translates to about 1.4 million members worldwide. If you add in the Interact Club and the Rotaract Club, we're probably at the 1.8 million membership.
And so when you talk about the Rotary Club, Denise, what is the purpose of the Rotary Club? And what do you attempt to do, I guess?
Well, it's a service organization, and our motto is service above self. So we're pretty much do-gooders, I guess. We do good in the world.
And do-gooders in Bathurst in what way?
In Bathurst, we have, we have different avenues of focus, or areas of focus, rather. So we have community and economic development. We have the environment. We have peace building and conflict resolution. We have education, maternal and child health. I think I might be forgetting. There's 7 areas of focus that we concentrate on. So when we have a project, we tend to look at those areas of focus to decide if we're going ahead with a project.
That's interesting. The environment, we had a segment not too long ago on the environment. Elaborate, what do you mean by the environment? Are we talking about energy? We're talking about clean energy? We're talking about cleaning a clean environment?
We're pretty basic, actually. We've planted trees.
Well, that's a big start.
That's an important thing.
Yes, and we need that oxygen. And so we have a project in Coronation Park at the moment. It's a memorial tree project. We planted trees. We planted trees not far from here, actually, just off of Yahal Drive. And we took part in a project at the Yahal Beach points where a natural breakwater was made to prevent erosion.
Wow.
So things like that we're doing.
So Denise, would you say that like a lot of your reliance is by you're giving back to the community, but the community is supporting you and because you're not for profit.
That's correct.
Right?
Yes.
So we're obviously, you know, it's important that when you're running functions that the community is involved in those functions, so they're helping you to raise money to give back to the community.
That's correct. So we raise money by, for example, we have an event coming up in June. It's the Rotary Rib Fest.
I was just going to get into that. My favorite event.
So the money raised from that goes right back into the community. So about 70% of the money that we raise throughout the year stays within our community. And we do have about 20%, let's say, that stays within the province, and about 10% that goes internationally for disaster relief, for example, that kind of thing.
Yeah, you know, that's so important because people don't realize, you know, that's a way of the community giving back. You know, and
for sure.
And organizations like the Rotary Club are so important and vital to that.
Well, the community
role.
couldn't function without volunteerism, you know, and you can't underestimate the role of Rotary. You know, and a lot of people think, well, Rotary are those people that have made it in business and they're comfortable and they're retired. But that's not the case. I mean, is it, Denise?
Not anymore. Rotary has been in existence now since the early 1900s, and it was started by a man, and it was a male-only club up until actually the late 80s, the
Wow.
late 1980s.
Really?
And now we
know
have a
that.
female international president.
Oh.
So
And a
it's
local
come
president.
And a
along.
local president.
I'm not the first female president for the Bathurst Club, but it's good. It's good for the club.
Well, what's your membership and how can you become a member?
Well, right now we have a membership of approximately 50 members, and of all ages, and of all professions, and you can become a member by just kind of letting us know that you want to be a member, and we meet with that person and see if they would be a good fit for Rotary or not. And that's
So what's the procedure? I mean, you have regular meetings, you have projects that you work on, you decide based on your regular meetings what's going to transpire. You obviously have an agenda for your meetings, etc.
Yes, so we have a meeting every week, every Monday. We meet at the Atlantic Coast at noon. So it's a luncheon meeting. And anybody is welcome to come to see what we're all about. That's not a problem. We usually have a guest speaker, so it could be somebody from the community. You've been there. You've both been to our meetings to speak to us about different things that you're doing.
Great people there too. We've met.
Oh,
Bro.
great! Yeah, definitely. And and that's one of the roles that Denise had mentioned, the economic side. That's really serious for us because we keep preaching it. We're not myopic. If the economy in the region grows, we grow.
Absolutely.
And everybody benefits and prospers in the
Yes.
region, and we don't want to see our people leaving.
No.
We'll be talking to the mayor of Heron Bay later, and they're experiencing some difficulties, but they're challenges. But you've got to start thinking outside that box and looking
Yes.
at opportunities, and especially on the economic side.
Yeah, yeah. And it's all about creating energy and enthusiasm. And when you see people out there volunteering, I don't know, there's something about it that really affects you, saying, geez, I should be doing that too. It's sort of a sense of pride seeing that person do what they're doing. Altruism, Denise, is a very special ingredient that people have and character trait that they have. And I would think most of your members have that spirit of altruism.
Yes, I mean, that's what we're there for. That's what we do. I mean, some things are, not everybody likes to do everything. So we have multiple committees within our Rotary Club. And whatever that person's interest might be, well, that's what they would get involved with. So we also have the World Travel Draw. So we have a committee for that. So members are expected to sell tickets, and which is not hard because we sell out every year and we have a wait list every year.
Well, you have great
Yeah.
gifts. I mean,
We do,
it's a
yes.
holiday, all paid
Yeah.
holiday
Yes.
or whatever,
Beautiful
right?
trip.
Yeah, that is our major fundraiser for the year.
Yeah. Well, Ribfest must be a big fundraiser as well.
It's not as big as the World Travel
Is
Draw,
that
but
right?
it's there, yeah, for
Well,
sure.
the interesting part then is I would say the volunteers are the ones that generate the revenue then as it relates to the selling the tickets and so on, right? You could get out there and you sell as many tickets as you can.
Yeah.
Where the Ribfest, you bring people in and
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, the World Travel Draw tickets, as I said, they sell themselves.
yeah.
So it's a great fundraiser for our club for sure.
So how does the Rotary Club decide what they're going to get involved in? Because I've seen the Rotary Club at some events, but not at other events. Is there a process where that people reach out to you and then you've got? I imagine there's a big need on volunteers and especially on the Rotary. So how do you guys differentiate where you're going to go? How do you make that decision?
Well, we try to collaborate with different organizations in the community. For example, Hospitality Days. We volunteered last year in the seniors event at the curling club. We had some people working in Coronation Park during the band musical events that were there. We've collaborated with Richelieu and Kingsman Club as well. They've volunteered at our Rib Fest, and we've done things together as well. We're always looking for ways to collaborate with any organization in the area. We have some people volunteering at the hospital on a regular basis. Yeah.
What about drawing volunteers? Do you find it's a challenge? Is it a challenge?
It is and it isn't. We don't really go out and look for members to join our club, for people to join our club, I should say. But that's not to say we don't need new members, for sure, because
You heard it here. Need new members.
Volunteer, the
Yes.
Rotary Club, Bathurst.
our club has been in existence since 1937, I believe. So we do have some older members in our club that are not as active as they used to be. So we're looking to diversify a little bit, bring in some new, younger members. It's a challenge for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a challenge everywhere, is really, bro.
Yeah, it's
we
tough.
look even within our own communities, in our First Nation community, much of our powwows are volunteers. And all our volunteers aren't getting any younger, that's for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
we've got a lot of older, and it's harder to bring those younger people in, but I think we're getting there, but it's
We
a
are.
challenge. I can imagine Rotary's probably
Yeah.
experiencing the the same.
It is, yeah. for
Denise,
sure.
do you have any programs focusing on youth at all, or is it?
We do. We have, the Interact Club in Bathurst is very, very active. It's a group of students in middle school and high school. The group in Bathurst is strictly at BHS, actually. And they are mentored by two of our Rotarians, and they do all kinds of things within the community. So helping the elderly, they help with the Spirit of Christmas, which I'm sure you're aware of. Other events, they'll help us at Ribfest, whatever event, street cleanup, that kind of thing. So we collaborate with them, and they do their own thing as well.
Well, that's great because it's setting a mentorship type of program where these people look up to the older people that are really volunteering. They're learning how to be volunteers, and then
Exactly.
spirit of altruism kicks in, and away
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah. We also have student exchange programs. So we haven't had an international exchange in a couple years because of the pandemic, but we're hoping to get that started again. The last student we had was from Spain, and she spent, the whole school year basically being billeted in Bathurst and going to the high school.
So does the Rotary Club sponsor?
We do, yeah.
Oh, wow.
We do. We sponsor a student. We also have something called Adventures in Citizenship. So we just had 2 students apply from BHS, and they came to one of our meetings. They told us why they would want to participate, and we chose one student to go to Ottawa, and she is going in May. And she will spend, I believe, 4 or 5 days going to Parliament, learning all about our government and that kind of thing. And that is fully sponsored by Rotary as
Now,
well.
does she come back and give some kind of presentation?
We're hoping.
Yes.
We're hoping,
that'd
yeah.
be interesting. Yeah, that'd
to
be
see her
interesting,
perspective
for
on
sure.
how government operates.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
We like them to do that. Sometimes it's not always
Yeah,
possible because it is at the end of May, and then June exams, and then they're usually quite busy preparing for university in the summer.
Denise, is there something that we didn't cover here with respect to the Rotary Club that you think is very important that we should all know? I mean, you covered a lot of important things, quite frankly.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I guess if you're interested in Rotary, please get in touch with a Rotarian. Let us know that you're coming to our meeting. We would love to welcome anybody at our meetings, really. And again, they're at noon at the Atlantic Coast, and it's a luncheon meeting, and we always have a guest speaker, except for our board meetings, which are the last meeting of the month.
So you heard it here. If you're interested, go to the Atlantic Coast at noon.
Denise Frenette, very much appreciative. Learning about Rotary Club, the spirit of altruism is something that I always have admired for, and seeing people that do the things that are very important in making a community what it is. We thank you very much
Yes,
for this.
thank you so much, Denise.
Thank
for
you very
joining
much
us.
for having
Thank you
me.
so much.
Remember, the Rotary Club, be a volunteer, participate in what's happening for sure.
Get involved.
Get involved. Thank you very much. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to our second segment, Mawio'mi Gathering Place, bro, and I'm excited. We have
I am.
Norman Pelletier.
The mayor, your worship. Welcome, your worship.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Terry. A pleasure to be here with you.
Yeah.
No, listen, we would have liked to have you sooner, but I
Yeah.
know that you've been busy man. So we're glad you can make it with us now. And there's lots to discuss. I mean,
Yeah, of
you guys
course.
are busy up there.
Yeah.
You have a lot of challenges we're facing. We're all doing the same thing. So I guess, Norm, to get right into it, you've been the mayor of Dalhousie how long now?
I started as mayor in 2016 till 22 when we changed to the new municipality of Heron Bay, and I got reelected as mayor of Heron Bay, and the next election is next year in May.
So Heron Bay now, Norman, it comprises what communities?
Well, Dalhousie is a central point. We got Point Lenim, as you know, Terry and Jim, and you got Dalhousie Junction. It starts in Dalhousie Junction. It goes to Charlotte, Blacklands, all the way down the seaside, just, outside of Benjamin a bit.
So
yeah.
it includes Charlotte as well? Then?
Yeah, Charlotte is a part of the new municipality of Heron Bay.
What about Eel River? Is that a different?
Eel River and Balmoral and Dundee is Bois-Joli.
Oh.
That's their new municipality.
Bois-Joli.
Yeah, exactly.
So what challenges have you found really, other than, obviously more bigger land, less budget to try to make everything meet?
Thank you.
For sure, I know that. We hear that from, we've had the same experience here with
Exactly.
with Bell Bay and the
Yeah.
amalgamation. So that, I imagine, is a big challenge for you guys as well.
Well, first of all, Dalhousie, back in the 70s, as you know, we had a population of 7,000, and when everything closed, we went down to 3,100.
Yeah.
So with the amalgamation, it brought us up to 5,400. But we noticed in the last few years after the pandemic that the population started coming up, and we ended up getting Richard Saillant from Moncton to come and do a study in Restigouche County for us. And he says, we noticed that the population increase is going up, and right there now, the problem you have here in Restigouche, for the next 5 years, you need 205 homes per year for the next 5 years.
What's driving that increase?
Well, it's people who left Ontario,
coming back
retiring,
home.
or British Columbia, where the cost of living was too high. They liked it in New Brunswick. They came and visit, and they liked the area. They liked the land, the diversity, and they moved in. Especially the pandemic created that momentum, more or less.
Yeah.
But your tax base is shrinking, obviously, because of
Yes.
the more aging population.
Yeah.
Less industry occurring, and that's a challenge.
Yeah, it is.
And you had mentioned something, and Nora, when we were talking earlier about off camera, about houses and the demolition of homes there, and the fact that a lot of these homes are being demolished, but it's coming at a cost to the community.
Well, what happened was after we lost all those major industries in 2008 and 2012, a lot of the old homes that were built downtown around the mill, we ended up, so far since then, we demolished roughly 85 homes in our municipality.
85.
So what the municipality does, we have to put aside a budget of roughly 100 to 125,000, and we say, well, we're going to clean up roughly 4 or 5 homes each year to demolish them and clean up the property and try to embellish our town as best as we possibly can to attract new arrivals into the municipality. You don't want to be a slum municipality. You want to be somewhat attrayant, comme ils disent en français.
Yeah.
So we send the bill into the province and they reimburse us, but by the time we get reimbursed, we're demolishing another 5 more. So you're talking about a $250,000 year
Deficit
after
every
year that
year,
we're playing with that money to improve, and we still got more homes to get done and old businesses that were just left vacant, and we are up trying to clean those places. So
yeah, that's a challenge,
It is a big
and
challenge.
It's a big challenge for a small community, and that's an example, I think, of shows that when industry leaves, it's hard because you've got that tax base that you were relying on, and now it's gone.
well, I'll give you another example. When I was on council back in 95 to 98, the town had roughly 50 full-time municipal employees. I'm talking street department, water department at the town hall. And then we had 12 full-time full-time police officers and 8 full-time firefighters. Now we have no more full-time firefighters. We don't have a police force, and our municipal workforce is down to 25. But we still have the same streets and water and infrastructures to maintain and plow and fix.
Yeah.
But with limited funds, like you were saying, Terry,
It's a challenge.
I remember a few years back, we did some resurfacing back in 2017 on a certain street, and it would cost us X amount of dollars. And I told my administrator, well, we should do this street here. And they said it should cost us around this. He gets back to me, he says, Norman, I said to him, I said, Jill, I said, how's things going about this street? Not well. He says, I was hoping the price he gave us for the street would be the whole street, and it was only half the street. So those are the challenges that we have. And we even brought it up at the Regional Service Commission that sometimes we were wondering, should we buy a paving plant ourselves, the commission? Because when you look in Grand Falls, it costs us 150 tons to spread the pave and pave it, to $300 a ton for us. It's a challenge. How do you want to fix streets?
Well, the other challenge too, Norman, is the aging infrastructure, right?
Oh.
I mean, you've got pipes that are aging. You've
Yes.
got buildings. You've got a whole
Sewage
bunch of
or
stuff
plant,
there that
yeah.
that's
It costs
aging,
us
even your equipment.
$2.4 million just to do a little Adelaide extension in the housing. That's what, probably 1,500 feet long, because the fire hydrants weren't working anymore hardly. We had to go up on another street to get the pressure to put out a fire. So those are the things we're dealing with.
Yeah,
So,
it's a challenge for
It
sure.
is.
And you know,
sorry, go ahead.
No, and when I think about opportunities, and we talk about opportunities, economic. We're big on economic, and we've been pushing the Port of Baldoon because we see it from Campbellton all the way to Chatham.
Yes.
People will travel to work.
Exactly.
They would rather travel an hour to work than fly out for 2 weeks and come home for 2 weeks, right?
You got that right.
So there's an opportunity there, and I think that's what we've been really working with everybody. But I know you have a challenge you've been dealing with, Norman. I know that there's a lot of it seems divided, and it's divided the community.
Yes.
And we hear, we've heard all about it all across New Brunswick. I mean,
Yeah.
it's in the press and everything about the mine that they wanted to open.
Correct. Yeah.
What is the biggest pushback that people are getting from the mine?
The biggest concerns that I've been hearing from the citizens, the noise, the dust, and what kind of pollution it will create. That was the biggest pushback from what I could hear. But we as a municipality, the town of the Housie, the old town of the Housie, never really had regulations on a quarry, mine, or sand pit, or gravel pit. So the provincial
is something
government,
new
because
now.
that was built in 1932, that old quarry that used to be
that's
there.
right outside the town.
Exactly, and they used to supply rocks for the port and the housing and so on and so forth. They used to blast and crush rock and so on and so forth. But the town never had a bylaw or a regulation pertaining to that. So the government told us you should put something in place to protect your municipality, and you'll have a voice at the table when they do deposit their recommendation for that quarry to open up as a mine. So that's what we did with this amendment. We put in rules. We listened to the people of our municipality who put in their complaints and their inquiétudes, and we put them down on paper, and we made sure it was stringent enough. So now when the company wants to deposit their planning of how they want to operate in that quarry, well, they're going to have to follow those rules, and if they want to change certain, they have to come back to the municipality, explain to us why they want to change certain regulations, and we'll see from there.
So the project has been approved then?
It's not approved yet. No.
Oh, okay.
No, it has to go to the planning commission. The planning commission is going to sit down with the company, and they'll go through the whole thing. But they still have to go for environmental assessment on the whole.
And consultation. I mean, that
Exactly.
consultation.
That
And
also.
I think that's a big part
Community
of
acceptance.
Exactly.
the social aspect,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what the misunderstanding I think was a big part of it.
Yeah.
Is people were thinking that this was
green light.
Yeah, you're giving them the okay to do it. Whereas really
Misunderstanding.
we're protecting the community because we have to have a regulation in place.
Yeah.
Because if there's no regulation, then how do we deal with it?
That's right.
It makes sense.
Yeah. So
and it's
the
unfortunate.
regulations are there now, and this company's going to have to follow them. And like I said, if they want to change something in those regulations, well, they're going to have to justify and explain to us why they want to change it.
Norman,
But right there now, they have an advisory committee they set up within the community. People from the whole community, I think it's a 10 or 12 member board, and they're going to show their plans and ask them what they think and what should we do, and hopefully they could fix that themselves.
Sorry for interjecting there, but Norman, I had a train of thought there. If you look at what a couple of assets that you've got, to me, that would be very good for economic development. Number one is that land where the mill used to be.
Correct.
Number two would be the port of Dalhousie.
Correct.
What are the long-term plans there with respect to those two assets?
Right there now, the port of Dalhousie owns the two ports. I think they have a contract presently for the West Wharf for possibly the Puzalan project.
Yeah.
The East Wharf, they're still working on other issues and other projects. From what I've been hearing, there's a company interested in setting up shop. So that'd be nice. The whole mill property belongs to Mr. Herbert Black, American Iron Metal. So what happened was in 2008, when the mill closed, Mr. Herbert Black bought the whole mill and all the responsibilities of the mill properties, the mill and the dump site.
Wow.
So he owns all that.
So the cleanup would be his responsibility, because I think there's still, because there was never really a big cleanup to bring that to a brown level.
Well,
was there?
there's only one place that is really, you have to do a parking lot.
Okay.
That's where the tanks used to be in the far corner, where
right.
Noranda used to have their stockpile of zinc and lead and iron ore and all that.
Yeah, you know, I think that's the problem we have now is people, you know, a lot of people are saying, you know, not in my backyard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
You're getting that all the time. But you've got to look at, you know, the bigger picture. You know, we always talk about the four pillars that we follow, which are social, cultural, environmental, and economic.
Yep.
But you've got to make sure, you know, you mitigate.
Yeah.
And if we are against everything, we'll have nothing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then when you have nothing, you're not able to do anything.
Well, you need the balance, right?
Yeah,
you need the
you
balance.
have a balance.
That's right.
It's difficult. But
It's so important to balance. Well, look, let's hold on to that thought.
Yeah.
We'll come back. We'll be right back. Take care.
Welcome back to our segment. We're talking here with Norm Pelletier, the mayor of Heron Bay. So Norm, you know, you had mentioned something earlier about the Charlot Dam when we were off camera here. And could you explain a little bit what you've done with not the Charlot Dam, but what you've done with the water that was coming in from the pipeline?
Well, the mill of the Halsey was the biggest user of that water, and the town used to get their municipal water from the mill. But when the mill closed, the Halsey had to build their own water treatment plant. And this pipeline, well, we were only using a third of the water, and the majority of the water is going directly out to the bay. So it was brought to my attention in 2016 when I got elected by a gentleman, and he says, why don't you just put a little turbine on that water that's going directly out the bay? So he showed me the project, and we went and met with the experts at EXP, and the pressure, we had to keep the pressure in the pipeline at the same pressure. So we ended up investing in it, and we got a little turbine. There's 100 kilowatts, I think it is, and it's generating the municipality between $85,000 to $100,000 a year, and it's good for 50 years of operation. This little turbine.
So, Norm, to visualize this, you have a pipeline, and it's the water coming out of the pipeline on which you have the turbine.
Correct. What it is, Jim, we're taking a third of that water before it goes to the turbine. This turbine is right after.
For the community consumption.
For community consumption.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh.
And so the wastewater going
Perfect.
directly out the bay, the turbine's there, and that little puppy turns 365 days, years, 24 hours a day.
You know, that brings us to another important thing, Norman. I know you're involved in it as well with a lot of the municipalities in the region. We're looking at a Northern Energy Alliance, much like they have in the Gaspé, where communities are able to make revenue from energy. Because if you think about it, at the end of the day, energy is created and it's sold to NB Power and sold back to us as people.
Yeah.
So why, you know, as users within the province, why can't municipalities earn some money off of that sale of power to help the people within the province of New Brunswick? It makes sense.
It's a grand slam to me. You know, when you see like especially in the house, you see the Appalachian Mountains on the Gaspé coast.
On the other side.
Yes, and we see all the wind turbines, and we had brought that up at our commission meetings 3 years ago, and we said, you know, we should find out more about this. And one of our mayors, Eric Gagnon from Kedgewick, had a good contact, and we took off from there gradually. And I had a gentleman from Energex to come make a presentation to us and give us a brief perspective. And we decided to form an alliance within. Then we took off and we met with Chaleur, Peninsula, Papineau, and Île-Verbert. Yeah. So now we have this beautiful alliance, and my goodness gracious, I'd be glad the day that comes true, because this is going to help Northern Brunswick municipalities to have a little bit of revenue to be able to do some beautiful little projects in their municipality.
Makes sense. Norman, the other thing, you talk about Charlot, there's a big dam there in Charlot.
Yes.
I would imagine there's going to be a cost upgrade associated with that dam down the road, right? Because it's been there a long time.
Well, it's been there since 1929, Jim.
So who's responsible for that?
What happened was when the mill closed, the province of Brunswick bought the dam from Abitibi Bowater.
Right.
So they own the dam. They invested.
So it's a provincial asset. Okay.
They asked the municipality of the Halsey at the time, well, we wanted to take over. I looked at, no, thank you.
I guess not.
No, my God.
I said the best way we could do a partnership, it would be the province owned 51%, the municipality owned 49%. Let's put a turbine at the dam. Let's look at putting probably solar panels near the dam and a battery farm and probably a wind turbine or something. And we could generate enough power that it would create a lot of good little jobs for young men in Restigouche County. That, you know, it would be an expertise. Especially if we have one little turbine, let's look at going bigger to help our municipality. Power's in demand and it's not going down.
We need more power. I mean, to develop industry here in the province, we need more power.
Exactly.
No question.
Yep.
Norman, the other thing that's interesting in terms of the demographics of Dalhousie and that area, the retirement people, a lot of retirement people.
Yep.
So that creates a different kind of mindset in terms of managing that, I would imagine, as a leader. I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you find sometimes difficulty in dealing with that because you've got a train of thought that's more
Progressive.
Yeah, a train of thought that's progressive and one that's not so progressive.
Well, you know what? The majority of the people who are retired in Dalhousie all worked in big industry. And they know that's what gave them their prosperity and it was able to give their kids a good education and so on and so forth. And they know that, you know what, that's what we need. And like you gentlemen were saying a while ago, economic growth, we need it. We need some sort of industry. Environment are very stringent today. It's not like it was 50, 60 years ago. To open a business or a company or an industry in any place in New Brunswick or Canada, you got to follow straight, very strict guidelines to be able to open. And we need that. But the seniors in Dalhousie, hats off to them. They love their town and they support us. We just, for example, this weekend, we had the 3-on-3 hockey tournament that has been going on for 40 years. It was a fundraiser where the money being raised goes back into the community from Kedgewick to Beldoon. It helps sick children under the age of 19.
Nice.
And so far, this organization gave $119,000 out to families in need. You know, and like you were mentioning earlier in your program, volunteers and you know, it's hard to come by.
And on that spirit, Norman, I'm thinking of, you know, you're talking about people that have a variety of experience, right? They come back and they've been working in industry, working different jobs. I mean, sharing that lifetime experience in a volunteer kind of way, you know, generating ideas. I mean, these people have, you know, been around. They've been in industry. They have the experience that they can share with people to generate ideas as well, right?
Yeah. And you know, if you're looking at economic development, there's always a risk with everything.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And you mitigate that risk the best you can.
That's right.
And I mean, you know, you could get up today and walk outside and get hit by a car. I mean, you mitigate it by looking both ways. So, I mean, you try to make it the best you can.
Yeah.
But there's a risk with everything. But, you know, you've got to weigh that risk against, if you don't take the risk, what are we losing? What are we missing? You know, and I think that's the problem you have sometimes. People don't look at things that way.
There's risk in moving forward.
Yes.
No question about it. You know, Norm, what do you see the challenges down the road in your you know, community of Heron Bay?
Well, you know, as like I said, cleaning up our municipality is one. The aging infrastructure is another. We only have so much tax dollars to play with, so it's a long. We need, like you were saying, Terry, we need economic growth to give us those tax base so we could fix our aging infrastructures in our municipality.
Yeah.
Those are the major challenges I see in the near future for our town, being that it's, you know, the housing was founded in 1905, so
it's an older town. That's for sure.
it was all based around the mill, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Very true.
Yeah.
And I think that's the challenge you have, you know, is trying to get that. And that's why I think, you know, we're pushing the Port of Beldoon for location, but we're saying, you know, we want to see people from Campbellton all the way to Miramichi come and work in that central area because, you know, like we had earlier today with one of our proponents, Marco Romero, who we're working, there's 225 possible jobs there.
Hey, that's something there.
That's good for the region.
That's just a start. That's just a start, you know.
Yes.
And if you grow that project to a bigger project, then then you're talking upwards of close to 1,000.
And
you know,
even
so
some of the other projects, you know, the biomass project.
Absolutely.
There's, you know, 100 people there.
Yes.
You start putting one project after the other, and they make sense. Well, there's opportunity, and we've got to get a younger population back in our region.
We have to. We're losing it. We're losing too much.
That's right. And we're losing our brain trust.
Oh, yes,
and everybody's
exactly.
leaving. And if they're not here and not wanting to stay in the community, you know, we can't live off fixed incomes.
No.
That's
No,
the
I'm
reality.
sorry.
You can't do it. I don't care what anybody says.
No.
If you've got a population in a whole town that is on a fixed income, it's very difficult to manage that.
And that's our
Exactly.
responsibility as leaders, to
Yes.
create hope and opportunity for the future generations, because, they're the leaders. They're going to be the future of the community.
Exactly.
If we don't have them, the communities go down and down and down.
That's right. We decrease all the time.
And I know some communities, Norman, have, I think of Elliott Lake and some of these other communities, that they've created a retirement haven.
Yep.
So what that means is they build homes to bring people in, or people come in and build home, and you give them a tax break to start off with that. Has there been any discussions
Well,
on that?
here's what we did in the housing in 2016 when I got elected. We had a little soccer field and a little baseball field that we weren't utilizing anymore. So we ended up giving it to a local contractor that built 16 condos like you have here in Beresford and Petit Rocher and so on. And what that did, it helped our seniors that are in town who wanted to get out of their homes and get into a one-level floor with a garage, and they sold their homes. Now we have the same two contractors who are doing more of them in our municipality, and that's what we need.
Yeah.
We have a lot of seniors who want to stay home,
Yeah.
but they need a better apartment for them to get around. It's easier for them to move around. And
Can't move up a 3-story house. Up
no.
and down the stairs.
Yeah.
We ever heard that going down one side,
that
one
one
stairs?
So Norman, were you pleased with the change in the municipality refiguration that happened?
Yes, so certainly I was. I remember when the Minister Daniel Alain came to the town of Heron Bay at the beginning. He says, "What do you think of amalgamation?" Well, I said I was quite a strong in favor of this in 95, 98 when they did Chatham and Newcastle at the time. And I said, you were talking about doing Campbellton and Dalhousie at that time. I said, personally, go from Upsquatch River to Beldoon, make one municipality, it'd be enough for me.
I agree with you.
Yeah, sometimes it's that not doing enough of that community consultation to get that input, and it's important because, like you just said, your opinion was that, and I'm sure other people would have said the same thing.
Yeah.
And if you get all that different vision, you'll come up with a vision that's acceptable for everybody. You get that community buy-in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, and for example, I'll give you another example. I was at the Campbellton Community College, and they have 80 international students at their community college. And they said we could jump that up to 180 if we wanted to, but we just don't have the apartments to host them in for them to come and get an education. So, I see a lot of businesses in our region that are looking for employees. And some entrepreneurs would like to sell the business to retire, but there's no takers.
But
There's no young generation to take place.
That's an interesting point, Norman, because a lot of businesses come in. We met with the Japanese. One of the things that it's just not about building something. They ask, is there training?
Yes.
Is there housing?
Correct.
And if you really want to position yourself as a community, you have to have both.
Exactly. We got to prepare ourselves for the future, and it's now. And that's why we, the town of Heron Bay, we have 200 acres. We asked the government of the province of New Brunswick, help us to put a business plan
Industrial
here.
park?
Pardon?
An industrial park? Is that what you're talking about?
No, where the old woodlands used to be, the mill used to own that property.
Oh, down there, okay.
Up on top of the hill, across from NB Power, and we own the 100 acres on side of it. We want to put a new subdivision in there.
Makes sense.
If we need 205 homes every year for the next 5 years, we got to look at ways and think outside the box. So,
I agree.
It's a challenge, and if you don't have industry coming in,
yes.
Bathurst. I mean, I can go through every city. I think Bathurst, Campbellton, Dalhousie.
Except for Moncton, maybe.
Well, except Moncton, St. John, St. John, Fredericton. But I mean, if you're looking at the smaller cities, it's a challenge. Even for the city of Bathurst. I mean, if it wasn't for the government facilities being here, I think we would be challenged.
It would be.
It would.
But we're that's why it's important to build on what we're looking at.
Yeah.
And that's why I think really, we've concentrated on obviously the Port of Beldoon. Because we see that as the energy
hub of
engine.
the north.
Yeah, energy engine of the north.
Yes.
And it would be beneficial for everybody because those opportunities,
The spin-offs.
the spin-offs, the
supply
contracting,
chain.
Exactly.
the
Their
stores to
supply
open,
chain.
the people
Yes,
that want to go
absolutely.
shopping. It's going to
Hairdressers, a grocery store, a barber shop, everybody.
Exactly.
It's a big vicious
And
wheel.
people have to look outside that, and thinking about, I don't want this industry here. Well, but what if that industry is here and they're thriving? There's going to be a lot more opportunity for everybody. And that's what people have to look at sometimes.
We lost too many youth outside the province and in the southern part of the province. We need to keep our youth up in Northern Brunswick.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
We got another segment. Well, welcome back to our final segment at Mawio'mi Gathering Place with our guest here, Norman Pelletier. So Norm, I guess, we were talking about economics earlier and where that's going and how we see it. If you had a vision for Dalhousie, what would you see as opportunities that you could see, well, geez, maybe there's some way we can work this?
Well, there's a lot of opportunities that we see that could take place in our region. One would be that mill property in the front street that belongs to Mr. Herbert Black. It'd be nice if some company or business or entrepreneur had the money to build condos or even a little manufacturing company on that property, because it's close to 70, 80 acres on that waterfront where the old mill used to be.
Is it zoned residential or industrial?
No, it's still zoned industrial, or light industrial, so that's what it is presently, that property.
So you'd have to go through a rezoning then if you're going to make
Depending
some residential.
on what you want to do with the property. If you want to go light industrial or heavy industrial or commercial, depending on certain aspects of that property. There was one area, as I mentioned earlier, that I think you only be able to make a parking lot because it was polluted somewhat at that area. But besides that, that property is pretty well at a brownfield now. Yeah.
Have there been any discussions with Mr. Black? Maybe that's, or to say or him steering any companies there, or is he just happy sitting on the land? I'm curious as to.
Well, the last discussion I had with Mr. Black, he said, look, if you have anybody who's interested in my property, give me a call. So, which I did. I did on a few occasions. And I even called him when I found the letter that he had made the offer to the town back in 2014 for $1. I asked him if that contract was still valid.
No harm in asking.
Oh, I said, I got to try. But you know what? But he had invested $1 million already on the old waste disposal site and to cap that off. And we just don't have that kind of money.
No, that is a lot of money.
What about attracting tourism and that sort of stuff to the town, to the region? I mean, Charlot.
We're kind of starting off this summer with a big bang, gentlemen. In August the 15th, La Fête des Acadiens. We have La Salle Barbe coming to Charlot Beach.
Nice.
So we're looking at, we're selling tickets for 6,000 tickets for that event on August the 15th, right at the beach in Charlot where the canteen is. So that is one big event that's going to take place. The other event that we're going to have coming in the fall, the 23rd or 24th of September, the most beautiful bays of the world will be in Restigouche County.
Yes.
We're doing our best with what is available. And right there now, the CMA, La Fête des Acadiens in 2029, we're aiming to have the World Congress in the whole from Chaleur all the way down to Bonaventure. And that'll attract, Jim, 125 to 140,000
Not
tourists.
just Chaleur, my friend, right up to here.
That's what I'm saying. The whole area of Chaleur, the district of Chaleur to Bonaventure. Petit Rocher, Bildun, the whole works.
I sat on that committee, and we met with the selection committee.
Yes.
So we actually had a meeting in Pabineau, and we brought him out and had that and made our pitch for the 2029, and fingers are crossed, and hopefully we get
our toes.
And that'd be great for the region. It brings a lot, $25 to $30 million into the region. I mean, that's a big amount of money coming into the region, so that's exciting.
And that'll put us on the map, big times.
Big time.
And Norman, you talked about Bonaventure. I mean, have you looked at, tourism goes down the Gaspé Coast, attracting them from there across. I mean, there used to be a ferry that went down to Dalhousie, right?
Yes.
But it's promotion now, trying to get them to go just a little bit further up across the Camelton and back down. But, linking it to Carleton, New Richmond, Gaspésie, Gaspé, Percy Rock, all that area. Would be an interesting thing because you get a lot of Americans come down through that area.
I think the biggest problem, Jim,
now.
is Dalhousie being an industrial municipality for all its life.
Yeah.
They changed the mindset of the people that we got to go, get some tourism in our area. We have a beautiful place, the Inchurn Park, Charlot Park. Yeah. We even end up doing a camping site at the marina that helps the marina keep afloat, and we're open for any kind of possibilities, and what can we do to continue attracting? But it still costs us money.
Yeah.
And a small municipality like Dalhousie, we have a $9.8 million budget for the whole municipality of Heron Bay that go right down the seaside to up to Dalhousie Junction. So we gotta manage that money reasonably.
I think, some of the partnerships have been formed too, Norm, when you look at, the Port of Baldoon has partnered with the Port of Dalhousie.
Correct.
So there could be some synergy down the road when you start looking at, obviously people want to go into the Port of Baldoon because of the landmass, but eventually you're going to run out of that. And you're going to say, well, listen, here's opportunity, right?
Correct.
Could we go to Dalhousie instead? I mean, you've got the port facility there, you've got a warehouse there.
Yeah.
We still got the rail line coming into
the rail line coming into it.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's some synergies there that could work together, and I think that's going to be the key as you move forward.
Yep.
To get that development in the region, and it's exciting times.
One of the things that we've done with the city of Bathurst, we formed a protocol. So you got a Pabineau First Nation protocol with Bathurst. Has Eel River Bar and Dalhousie discussed that kind of thing as well?
Not yet. We haven't, but I'm often down at Eel River Bar First Nation speaking with chief and council on all kinds of projects that are taking place within both our municipalities. What can we do to help each other out and move? I noticed, for example, Eel River Bar First Nation purchased a lot of property and they're opening new subdivisions, which is dearly needed. And we, the municipality, supplied the water and the sewage.
Yeah.
So we signed an agreement with them. We said, look, if you ever get a water break within your municipality, we'll send our crew down to fix it because they're specialized.
Yeah.
Our water department is specialized in water breaks and whatnot. Because if you have to hire it's not because I'm against contractors, but if you have to hire a contractor to come in and fix a water break, by the time they get their equipment there, by the time they find the break, it could take a day or 24 or 36 hours. Where our crew come in, they know where the break is, dig it up,
do it right away,
and fix it up within 5-6 hours sometimes.
So you signed a municipal service
municipal
agreement.
service. We have the same thing. We signed with our Vanier Boulevard.
Yeah.
We signed with the city of Bathurst a municipal service agreement to service
Exactly.
not only our water and sewage, but our fire and police.
But the fire is with Eel River Crossing. They had that agreement many years back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those kind of things are working together, right,
Correct.
in conjunction because. From our perspective, again, I go back to this myopic approach. I mean, we can't be like that anymore. You know, before we were all working in our little silos, but now we're all competing for those same dollars.
Yeah.
We're all trying to fight to survive, and it's important that we group together and we say, okay, let's do this as a group.
Strength and unity.
numbers.
I mean,
Thank
you
you.
have to do that because we're very small.
Thank you, Jim and Terry,
it's
because
like
I always believed in that concept. We have to look at what is our strong points, our weaknesses, and let's work together where it's going to benefit all of us.
Exactly.
You know?
And especially when you're in smaller areas and smaller municipalities. I mean, you look at Eel River Bar is probably 800 members there, and a lot of their kids. If you went to the school and if they were taking their kids out of the school, man, a lot of these schools
Yes,
wouldn't
they'd be
have-
closed.
They would be
Exactly.
closed because of the kids that are there. So they're contributing a lot to the local economy. And I think that's what we've got to look at. Okay, so how can we get a synergy there that's going to bring something in that's going to benefit everybody in the region?
Yeah.
And that's the Port of Baldoon for us is our.
And I'm behind you 150% on
And
that
these
one.
energy projects too, Norm, that we talked about. That energy, considering the Northern Energy
Alliance.
What a great opportunity! I mean, we all benefit, and that's like you said. From a small turbine, you're making $90,000. We can relate. We have a small wind project. And it gives us a nice little return to the community.
Yes, exactly.
And we reinvest in the community.
Exactly.
And all our money is spent for us in Bathurst. I mean, we spend all our money in Bathurst. During COVID, we kept many businesses.
Or
afloat.
there's always a Costco run to Moncton, though.
Oh, yeah.
The odd one.
Which is why we should have had a Costco here in Bathurst. Or somewhere in the north. And these are things that I think as we work together and we all make sure that these things happen, it's gonna create that synergy we're gonna get. And you always got to hit a lot of foul balls before you hit a home run.
That's right.
So we're going to get there. I mean, it's
teamwork.
And it's teamwork. And that's what we've really been pushing.
Yeah. The challenge is, as Terry said, is working together. And coming up with ideas and getting the spirit of entrepreneurship. This is what this particular show is all about.
Yes, it is.
It's talking about ideas. It's talking about generating energy, enthusiasm. It's moving forward in a positive way, informing people of what's happening as well. Because you've got a trickle effect. You talk to somebody about one thing, and then all of a sudden you got people energized, and they got other ideas, and you build on your own ideas, and away you go.
We as and we were talking to the Alliance, the Energy Alliance, a municipality's got their hands tied. There's only so much we can do.
Yeah.
Our revenue comes in from our taxes. That's it, that's all.
Yeah.
So if we could put in, even I was looking at our arena, and I'm looking at our municipal infrastructures. Should we put solar panels on some of these buildings? If it could bring our costs down, well, you know what? We're helping to the green. We're doing our share to green,
And
green,
it's a savings for the
and the
community.
savings for the community. You know, we got to think outside the box.
Yeah.
It's that's what we've done in our community. We have solar panels on our band hall, solar panels on our health center, and we have solar panels on Vanier Boulevard. So that's a savings to the community. It's an investment.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
It is.
But at the long run, you're saving
exactly.
money.
That's right, and that's what we need to do.
I think you made a good point, or with the Northern Alliance thing, and we have a restructuring happening with MB Power right now.
Yeah.
That's looking into the future. These are things that got to be brought up.
Yeah.
They got to be brought up by the people who are being interviewed out in the land here in New Brunswick to say, listen, I have an idea. Yeah. Why aren't we looking at this? And then changes can be made that will allow municipalities to be involved in these projects. I mean, they've done it in Quebec already.
Yeah.
Bro, that's leading into another segment for sure. Norman, we want to thank you for coming here and sharing your opinions.
I thank you both for inviting me here. It's a great opportunity for us to speak on behalf of the people in Northern New Brunswick. Look, we got to work together from the whole Northern New Brunswick, because we don't get that much help from the province up here.
I'll second that.
Closing comments, bro.
So, Norm, it's been great having you. And, we're working together. I think that's the key from Campbellton. I talked to the mayor of Campbellton. You mentioned I didn't even go and talk to the mayor of Kedgwick. I talked to him about this. So, I mean, these are great opportunities. And by working together, we're going to get things done. And we just got to keep that positive attitude, pushing together. And I know you've got that positive attitude.
Oh, yes, yep.
Thank you for joining us. Stay tuned for the next segment of Mawio'mi, right, brother?
Next segment.
Thank you.